Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really interesting question, one posed directly by a piece we've looked at. What if Islam was the answer you've been searching for?
hmm And this source, it's quite personal, isn't it? It's framed as a direct invitation, really speaking to anyone feeling maybe a bit lost or like something's missing.
Exactly, it's not some dry academic text.
hmm
So, our mission today is to sort of unpack the main ideas here. What is this search it talks about, and how does the text position Islam in relation to that feeling?
Yeah, especially regarding that sense of emptiness or dissatisfaction that many people, that many people feel.
Okay, let's get into it then. The piece, it really kicks off with something most people can probably relate to. That quiet, nagging thought, is this it? Is this all there is, beyond the daily grind?
Right. It suggests, quite subtly, that the usual ways we try to fill that gap, maybe buying more things, chasing new experiences, they don't always satisfy that deeper need.
And it hints that maybe, just maybe, the answer isn't something new, but something, well, ancient. Something like Islam. It feels like it's tapping into a very basic human longing, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And what I find interesting is how the text presents this feeling, this dissatisfaction. It's not saying it's your fault or an individual failing.
Oh, okay.
It frames it more as, part of the human condition, this constant striving, this sense that there's something more out there to find.
And then almost straight away, it brings Islam into the picture, but maybe not in the way people expect. It makes a point about the very first word revealed in the Quran.
Ah, yes. Read.
Read. Not obey or believe, but read. That feels significant, doesn't it? It sort of reframes the whole approach.
It really does. By highlighting read right at the start, the text immediately sets up this idea of like seeking understanding, engaging your mind, not just accepting things blindly.
Yeah, it presents Islam as a path that actually encourages you to explore and learn. And it tackles some common Western ideas about Islam head on, saying, look, it's not just a culture tied to certain places. Fundamentally, it's presented as a way of being.
A way of being. And central to that is this idea that we're not just cosmic accidents. The text emphasizes that each person is intentionally created.
By a loving creator, it says, someone who knows our struggles. That's quite a counter narrative to feeling random or, meaningless.
Precisely. And if you think about that universal desire for purpose, well, this narrative offers one.
Mhm.
You were created intentionally, so there's an inherent purpose, a connection back to that creator.
Which leads us to the word Islam itself. The piece explains it means submission. Now, that word can sound loaded, maybe.
It definitely can. But the text is careful here. It frames submission not in a negative way, like submitting to some harsh power, but as submission to truth.
Okay, submission to truth. So, like letting go of the need to have all the answers yourself, ceasing that internal fight.
That seems to be the angle. It's presented as an internal surrender, maybe. Releasing that burden of needing total control, aligning yourself with something bigger, a greater truth. And the suggestion is that this is where inner peace comes from.
It uses a really powerful image for prayer, too, describing it as coming home. That resonates strongly with that initial feeling of searching, doesn't it?
It does. It paints prayer not just as a religious duty you have to do, but as something more fundamental, like a natural human need to connect, to return to a place or a state of belonging and peace.
Towards the end, the piece sort of lowers the barrier to entry, you could say. It says you don't need some massive, immediate life change.
Right. It focuses on sincerity.
It poses that simple, powerful request, God, if you're real, guide me, suggesting that even just whispering that sincerely could be a first step.
And that emphasis on personal experience, the invitation to just explore it for yourself, that's quite striking. It's not demanding anything up front, more like proposing a personal journey of discovery.
Yeah.
Makes it feel less daunting, perhaps.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. The core argument seems to be there's this common human search for meaning, peace, purpose. Often the ways we try to find it don't quite work. And this text presents Islam not as culture or politics or just blind faith, but as this way of being rooted in intentional creation by a loving God.
And the key concept is Islam as submission to truth, letting go of that need for control to find inner peace.
And it uses those memorable points. Read as the first command, emphasizing understanding.
Right, the idea you're not an accident, you were created with purpose.
And prayer as coming home, that feeling of return.
Exactly, all aiming to connect with that initial search.
So for you listening, we wonder, Does any of this resonate with that feeling? The text starts with that "is there more to life?" question. Could the answer, as this source suggests, lie in looking at something ancient through maybe a new lens?
Which brings us to a final thought to leave you with. The source strongly implies that if Islam is the answer someone's looking for, wouldn't it make sense to explore it further? Especially, it suggests, since genuine truth isn't afraid of questions, it actually welcomes them. Something to consider.